Now imagine having the psychological tools to see that betrayal coming months in advance, and the strategic wisdom to neutralize the threat before it materialized. This is the power of Machiavelli's teachings. His insights function as practical wisdom for navigating a world where people wear masks of loyalty while serving only their self-interest. Like a CEO anticipating a competitor's move before they make it, you too can develop this foresight. Are you prepared to see beneath the surface of human interactions? The psychological advantage awaits those willing to embrace these ancient yet timeless principles. Like the video and subscribe for more timeless strategies to protect your power and see betrayal before it strikes. Have you ever noticed how some people seem untouched by the chaos around them, moving through life with a strange immunity to the traps that ensnare others? While most stumble through repeated cycles of betrayal and disappointment, these rare individuals navigate the same treacherous waters with an almost preternatural awareness, as if they can sense the undercurrents that others miss entirely. This difference marks the beginning of our hero's journey. The recognition that psychological vulnerability forms the starting point for most human suffering. The majority remain caught in patterns of naive trust, followed by inevitable disappointment, never learning history's repeated lessons. Like open books with pages clearly marked, they expose their weaknesses and needs, only to find these revelations weaponized when circumstances change. What separates these perpetual victims from those who remain psychologically sovereign isn't intelligence or education. It's a fundamental understanding of human nature that most prefer to deny. While ordinary people fall victim to manipulation, others anticipate betrayals before they materialize, moving with calculated precision to prevent harm. Machiavelli observed this pattern centuries ago in Renaissance Italy. He watched powerful figures rise and fall based primarily on their psychological fortitude. Those who maintained an uncompromising understanding of human motivation survived, while idealists who believed in inherent goodness frequently met tragic ends. His observations were survival strategies drawn from history's blood-soaked lessons. Modern research confirms Machiavelli's insights. The average person experiences significant betrayal 3 to 5 times in their lifetime, with the deepest wounds inflicted by those closest to them. These betrayals create psychological wounds that lead either to withdrawal from connection or recommitment to naive trust, despite evidence suggesting otherwise. The principles that separate the vulnerable from the untouchable can be applied in modern contexts with remarkable effectiveness, as demonstrated by actual cases of strategic thinking in action. Consider Elena Rossini, a mid-level executive targeted in a corporate restructuring. While colleagues responded with emotional appeals that exposed their vulnerabilities, Elena applied Machiavellian principles with surgical precision. She identified the actual decision-makers, created strategic alliances based on mutual benefit rather than friendship, and maintained an impenetrable public image while privately mapping her response. She preserved her position and emerged with greater authority, all while maintaining personal integrity without resorting to dishonesty or cruelty. Becoming untouchable doesn't mean embracing cruelty or disconnection. It means achieving psychological sovereignty in a world where others constantly seek advantage. It means recognizing that while you cannot control others' actions, you can control your response by understanding the rules governing human behavior. This sovereignty allows for genuine connection without the vulnerability that comes from ignoring human nature. Machiavelli's wisdom offers a map for personal transformation that challenges our comforting illusions about human motivation. This path demands we abandon childlike trust without surrendering to cynicism, perhaps the most difficult balance in psychological development. The difference between the vulnerable many and the untouchable few lies in willingness to embrace a strategic understanding of human nature without flinching from its uncomfortable implications. The untouchable have accepted what most deny. Human relationships operate according to predictable principles that, once understood, can be navigated with remarkable precision. Those who master human nature's predictable principles understand that the foundation of being untouchable isn't found in physical strength or material resources, but in the careful management of how others perceive you. What if the very moments you're encouraged to show your authentic self are precisely when you're most vulnerable to having your weaknesses cataloged and exploited? The first principle for becoming untouchable directly confronts one of modernity's most celebrated virtues: vulnerability. While our culture embraces the therapeutic notion that revealing struggles creates authentic connections, this approach leaves you exposed. The strategic value of maintaining an unyielding image lies in controlling the narrative others have about you. Like leaving your fortress door wide open during an attack, sharing vulnerabilities provides others with a detailed map of exactly where and how you can be wounded. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. This fundamental insight from Machiavelli reveals why perception management is about survival. In today's digital landscape, this centuries-old wisdom has become even more critical as our vulnerabilities can be instantly archived, searched, and weaponized against us. Social media platforms have transformed fleeting moments of weakness into permanent exhibits. That emotional breakdown shared on Instagram during a difficult period doesn't disappear when you recover. It remains accessible and potentially weaponizable for years to come. As one source warns, every time you show weakness, someone is watching and calculating. Your digital vulnerability creates an archive that others can access whenever undermining your position serves their interests. Historical leaders have intuitively understood this principle. During personal crises, health problems, family tragedies, moments of doubt, effective leaders have maintained a public image of strength and composure. This isn't mere vanity, but strategic preservation of authority. When followers perceive weakness, their confidence erodes regardless of actual capabilities. The appearance of strength becomes self-fulfilling, generating respect and compliance that reinforces real power. This operates below conscious awareness. Research suggests that even people who consciously value compassion will unconsciously lose respect for those who frequently display weakness. This evolutionary response is hardwired into social evaluation as we categorize others as either assets or liabilities to our own success. If you want to be untouchable, the first step is to kill the illusion of vulnerability. Maintaining composure doesn't require emotional detachment. The goal is developing emotional regulation, experiencing feelings without being controlled by them. This means responding strategically rather than reacting impulsively. Composure signals competence, creating a perception of resilience that inspires confidence while preserving your authority. You might wonder if this approach is fundamentally dishonest, but consider this reframing. You don't owe anyone your truth. You owe yourself the advantage. Controlling your image is about crafting an identity that cannot be easily undermined. The paradox is that consistently projecting strength eventually creates actual strength. Your mind adapts to the role you play, developing the capabilities you consistently demonstrate. What begins as conscious image management evolves into authentic psychological sovereignty, transforming the armor of perception into genuine psychological fortitude. Beyond the careful management of vulnerability lies an even more subtle form of power that few recognize until it's used against them. Have you ever noticed how the most influential people in any room are rarely the most talkative or transparent, but rather those who leave others guessing about their next move? There's a profound psychological reason for this. Humans instinctively pay closer attention to what they cannot easily categorize or predict. Like a chess master who keeps opponents constantly recalculating, unpredictability creates psychological leverage. In our quest to become psychologically sovereign, we encounter a counterintuitive truth. The more predictable you are, the more control others have over you. Society encourages consistency and reliability, but Machiavelli recognized these qualities can become liabilities in competitive environments. Unpredictability creates an aura of power that consistency cannot match, compelling others to remain alert in your presence. Strategic silence functions powerfully in social dynamics. When you deliberately withhold information, you create a vacuum others rush to fill with their assumptions, fears, and desires. This technique gains you information while revealing minimal details about yourself. In negotiations or conversations, the first speaker typically divulges their position, while the listener gains intelligence without exposing their hand. This controlled information exchange puts you in command of the interaction. Research in negotiation psychology confirms that individuals who deviate from predictable patterns secure better outcomes. When opposition can anticipate your moves with certainty, they develop countermeasures before you've acted. By introducing calculated variance, you force others to react to you rather than strategizing against you. This strategic control shifts the power dynamic in your favor. Strategic unpredictability differs from emotional volatility. The former stems from deliberation, while the latter betrays lack of control. To master this principle, practice breaking your patterns. Take unexpected positions, respond with silence instead of argument, or approach familiar problems from new angles. Each variation reinforces your psychological sovereignty. Your power comes from being unreadable. As Machiavelli's philosophy suggests, those who cannot be easily interpreted often thrive where others falter. This approach maintains control over how much information others can access about your intentions and future actions. Most vulnerability stems from emotional reactivity. When someone knows precisely how to provoke you, they've discovered a mechanism to control your behavior. By commanding your emotions rather than being commanded by them, you transform weaknesses into strategic tools. This emotional mastery allows you to become calculating when circumstances demand it. The goal isn't manipulating others, but ensuring they cannot manipulate you. By introducing uncertainty into interactions, you become harder to exploit. When people cannot predict your reactions, they must engage with you on your terms, rather than applying social formulae that work on transparent individuals. Strategic unpredictability serves as both shield and sword, protecting you from manipulation while granting greater influence. The unpredictable person commands attention simply because others cannot afford to dismiss them. How might you introduce small elements of unpredictability into your next important conversation to regain psychological control? The quantum uncertainty in your actions creates power. But there's an equally unsettling truth about human nature itself we must confront. When was the last time someone's loyalty to you was truly tested by significant personal cost? Most relationships we cherish operate on hidden transactional principles that society has conditioned us to ignore, a reality Machiavelli understood with brutal clarity. Machiavelli observed this centuries ago in his famous assertion that men forget more easily the death of their father than the loss of their patrimony. This statement, while jarring, highlights how self-interest fundamentally shapes human behavior. Society teaches us that true love, friendship, and family bonds transcend material concerns. Yet this comforting narrative crumbles when examined through the lens of social exchange theory, which reveals how relationships function as series of cost-benefit analyses. Consider Sarah, who maintained a friendship with her college roommate for 15 years. When Sarah lost her job and couldn't afford their annual vacation together, her friend suddenly became too busy to meet at all. The relationship, which Sarah believed was based on genuine connection, revealed its transactional foundation when she could no longer contribute equally. In professional relationships, the exchange is explicit: labor and skills for compensation and opportunities. Both parties continue as long as perceived value outweighs costs. When the equation shifts unfavorably, the relationship is renegotiated or terminated. We accept this in business without moral judgment, yet resist applying the same framework to personal connections. Psychological research confirms this uncomfortable truth. Loyalty is rarely unconditional. It's influenced by reciprocity. People remain loyal to those who have demonstrated loyalty to them. Trust builds through consistent behavior and fulfilled promises, but erodes quickly when self-interest is no longer served. Your friendships and romantic partnerships follow similar patterns. People assess emotional support, shared experiences, and companionship received against their contributions. When the exchange feels inequitable, relationships become vulnerable. This explains why seemingly unshakable loyalties dissolve when circumstances change dramatically. Understanding the transactional foundation of relationships allows you to build stronger connections by consciously creating value for others. Focus on developing genuine skills, resources, or insights that benefit those around you. By becoming authentically valuable, you create natural leverage without exploitation. Equally important is maintaining your ability to walk away. Like a skilled negotiator who's prepared to leave the table, this willingness demonstrates self-respect and independence. Those who cannot walk away become dependent, diminishing both their power and others' respect for them. Setting clear boundaries ensures you're never trapped in harmful situations. The strategic management of relationships requires balancing closeness with independence. Give enough to maintain the connection but preserve your autonomy. This isn't about emotional distance, but ensuring mutual benefit while preserving your freedom. This perspective may initially seem cold, stripping away sentiment we associate with human connection. But the alternative is being blindsided when circumstances change and relationships shift. The transactional view doesn't diminish genuine affection. It acknowledges the underlying mechanics that sustain it, allowing you to build relationships based on respect rather than naive dependency. As we recognize the transactional nature of human connections, we must confront an even more challenging principle of power: the necessity of decisive action. In your own life, how often have unresolved problems returned with greater force because you couldn't bring yourself to address them completely the first time? This pattern reveals the paradox at the heart of Machiavelli's fourth principle, that incomplete measures ultimately cause more harm than they prevent. The untouchable doesn't merely understand human nature, they act decisively when circumstances demand it. This calculated approach stands in stark contrast to how most people respond to challenges. Like removing a splinter completely rather than leaving fragments beneath the skin,